We are here in Austin, Texas at the Big 5G event. My name is Phil Harvey and I'm joined by Ed Fox, the CTO of MetTel. Ed, thanks for making some time for us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
How are you enjoying the event so far?
Oh, it's great so far.
Yeah.
Lots of partners, lots of vendors, a lot of great
Good.
information.
Good. Yeah, good. I was about to say, we were part of that process earlier today. We were on a panel talking about the telco of the future, what things are going to look like in 2030, in a few years. And it's interesting because we covered some kind of bigger systemic telco issues, but now I'm kind of interested, now that we're back on the 5G floor, let's stop talking about the future so much and maybe talk about 5G. So one of the biggest stories this year has been fixed wireless access and how 5G sort of enabled it and how it's become a difference maker in broadband connectivity. How does MetTel use fixed wireless access and maybe more importantly, where do you use it?
Yeah, great question. And I think this morning someone had put up a slide that talked about a $230 billion marketplace for fixed wireless access in 5G in a couple of years.
Which tells me anyway that it's not just a temporary Band-Aid for connectivity. It's a much bigger than that.
Yeah, for sure. So at MetTel, we use it quite a bit as we deploy managed network services, particularly SD-WAN today. Mm-hmm. It's just another access method for us. So based on our customer base and their locations, we're always looking for different types of diverse access, mm-hmm. Whether that be coax versus fiber or wireless versus satellite communications. We do a lot of that now as well.
Right.
So on the fixed wireless side, we not only do it for IoT type engagements, but also just WAN backup.
Okay.
And we partner with several different equipment providers. And we're always providing multiple SIMs. So, we'll have it live on one carrier, say AT&T, and the backup on Verizon.
Right.
And the interesting thing is that helps us a lot in the deployment phase, because we don't have to worry about which carrier is better. We can send it with two SIMs and have the one active that's the best.
Okay, yeah, that's a great sort of thing to point out for your customer's point of view, because, the carriers they have great, resilient, robust networks, but they're also limited geographically in what they can do, and some of them have different approaches to technology, and reach and things like that. They have different spectrum holdings, for instance. So so being able to pick and choose or use one for primary and one for backup kind of makes sense.
Yeah, or trying to get a carrier that has mid-band around an airport.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's been a huge problem. The other kind of thing about that with SD-WAN, that does, fixed wireless access kind of embraces the ethos of SD-WAN, which is bring all the connectivity you can, and then we'll make sense of it and give you like a unified connection inside the enterprise.
Yes.
But on the outside, it doesn't have to be a bespoke, nailed up, expensive circuit. It can be a whole variety of things that just as long as you get some kind of throughput.
Yeah, and we find, it's 5G signals, the higher bandwidth, that's harder to get to kind of a branch WAN, because those higher frequencies are so much loss or attenuation when you're trying to put antennas outside. So we're always doing 5G and LTE together, and it's funny, we're all hyping 5G, but the LTE-A side of the house is operating so great right now.
Yeah.
It's 14 years later, but we're there.
Yeah.
And I think 5G will be much quicker than that,
right.
in how it gets to its fruition. But yeah, having both today, and we always advise customers, you may not have that great of 5G service today,
right?
But buy the equipment so that it's ready for when it is ready.
Yeah.
So get your LTE today, and just be ready for 5G, and we could just ship you a SIM.
That's a great point too, because it is going to be a 10-year evolution. Let's say if 4G was any hint, in terms of where it's built out to the point, and the connectivity is optimized, and the coverage is better, and so on and so forth. Speaking of coverage, let's get into another 5G related topic. Is with all the mid-band spectrum that is perpetuate or sort of, made 5G really work and reach a mass market here in North America, specifically the U.S. Everybody's on mid-band, and then you go into a building and it just drops, your connectivity drops to zero. So it has a hard time propagating in certain places. What kind of opportunity does that unlock for, connectivity providers, or what are you being asked of from your customers with regard to, in-building connectivity solutions?
Yeah, this part of the market's on fire for us right now. We had started with, so you think the evolution here of in-building, you had your DAS, then you had small cell, and we played around in the small cell area a little bit, probably pre-pandemic. That all got killed during the pandemic.
Sure.
But now we have a waiting list of folks that are looking for us to do in-building, not only for private 5G and CBRS types frequencies, but also just to rebroadcast the other carriers.
Okay.
And we're working closely with Ericsson now, actually. They were a keynote this morning as well.
Yeah.
And we're really excited about their new DOT system.
Okay.
That's going to allow us to extend for our customers, enable their 5G in building, and also allow us to do some IoT things that we can't do without that RAM.
Okay, so it's not just, I guess one of the markets is, just taking the great connectivity you get on the street and taking it inside,
right,
which is harder to do than it sounds,
yes,
of course, especially in these cavernous like convention centers, stadiums, arenas, colleges, public schools, just all these places. What about the private 5G market? Like, is that an enabler of that market, and does that kind of, I guess which one do you sell first? I guess.
Yeah, it's interesting. That's why I was so excited about the Ericsson solution. We could do both. We could offer both. Because if I could tell the future, I wouldn't be here.
Yeah, right.
But I think one's an enabler of the other for sure. Don't know which one it is though, and I think it's different for different customers.
Yeah.
It's funny. I was preparing for a speech I did last week, and I was looking at edge compute, and I was trying to figure out. I would have figured industry-wise, manufacturing, healthcare would have been leading the way.
Sure. Yeah.
But it was public sector.
Yeah.
It's public sector, and it's edge compute to transportation vehicles and waste management and police cars.
Yeah.
I watched the video the other day on a police car that had all this electronics in it and turned into one edge compute device with SD-WAN on it, and using 2 different antennas, and got 10 times the bandwidth. And 100 times less of space,
right?
And last longer. So I think there's many use cases that are pushing that in-building piece, and I think it has to do with the industry and how secure you need it.
Right.
And Wi-Fi is growing pretty quickly too, and those are good. That's getting faster and faster as well. So I think purpose-built private networks will start being a thing, but I think solving for the 5G coverage,
right?
First off, will be the lead in.
Yeah, because the private part is kind of the more complex. That's a business that already has some complexity built into what they're doing.
Yes.
They need that connectivity all to themselves. It needs to have certain characteristics and that sort of thing. Everything else just needs coverage,
right?
And the ability to adapt to uneven usage, I guess, in most facilities. So. It's a pretty interesting time, because it's like we feel like we've talked about coverage for so long, but there's still so many market opportunities within the 5G universe that fortunately guys like you are around to figure it out for us.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think this was pre-pandemic, but there was a stat that I read. I think it was Forrester. Don't kill me if I get it wrong. But, it was like 73% of mobile phone calls that were business were made inside the building.
Oh, okay.
And I wonder if that's going to come back.
Yeah.
We're not all back in the office yet. and many of us don't even use the phone anymore, right?
The cell phone is the desk phone.
Yeah.
You know, it's like that's where most of the messaging happens.
Yeah, there's no more desk phones.
Yeah.
It's your cell phone indoors, and it becomes that important.
Yeah, it definitely does. So, well, hey, thanks for the for being part of the panel earlier, and also for your insights here. It's good to see you again.
Thank you. Great to see you.